feed the poor and the hungry as well. So if any food's being wasted, I need to know, because that's not what should be happening. Yesterday, I said that there were about 14,000 youngsters that availed themselves of a free breakfast and lunch. Today, that number is 53,000. So as I mentioned yesterday, we expect that as family situations become more and more stable, more and more of those children are going to be able to come in and avail themselves of lunch and breakfast as well. We expect that number to increase.
Go ahead, Bobby.
In place, obviously you haven't developed the details, but you talked about leeway if you're going to the grocery store, the pharmacy. In general terms, how would shelter in place be different from what people are doing?
Sure. No, first of all, I am going to, this is something where a decision has not been made, needs to be made together with the state. We've never done it before. We've never even done anything close to it before. So this is, you know, trying to make sense of the situation as best we can. I think we've got initial interesting information from California, the way they set up their model, which is, you know, a step, definitely a step more strict than where people are right now. And then I think Italy, from what I understand imperfectly, we're continuing to study, is a step even more strict than that. And the way I would say it is, right now, people are still going to work who are not just essential service workers. In a shelter-in-place scenario, best of my understanding, you know, you have to be a police officer, firefighter, healthcare worker, transit worker, or any number of people who are determined to be essential to the continuance of society. But if you're someone who works in retail, if you're someone who works in, you know, food service, all sorts of things, your work is going to be closed down unless it is being rerouted to an essential need. So the fact is a much tighter reduction of the workforce and of the amount of people who are out. And you have to have a reason to be out that aligns to being essential in terms of moving around from place to place. What I understand in the, again, this is only initial, the California model, what I'm seeing is they leave space for, you know, if you want to go out and get some exercise and you're socially distanced, you can do that. But that's not the same as, you know, going to work at your tech company, right? That's not the same as, you know, going to your Little League game, right? All that stuff is gone. It is, if you want to go out and get some air and exercise, you do it in a very limited way and you socially distance. So it's taking some of the rules that we're encouraging people to follow now, making them tighter and reducing the workforce greatly and reducing travel greatly. And then the next step, again, I'm the layman and my colleagues can jump in, but the Italy version is even tighter still. As I understand it, beyond the essential service workers, Italy is basically grocery store and pharmacy. And they want, and they have the ability for the police to stop you and confirm that you're going to one of those places and that you are supposed to be out on the street to do just that. So it's all about levels of restriction and enforcement. I don't know, is that in the ballpark?
Yep, you got it.
Okay, the judges have spoken. Go ahead.
A couple other really quick ones. Richie Torres, the councilman, tested positive. Just your quick reaction, and have you had any do you have any contact with him recently?
I have not at all. And I'm sorry that he's going through this. And again, I'm hoping, I know Richie is a very, you know, he's young, healthy guy. I'm hoping he comes through it very smoothly.
And the organizers of the St. Patrick's Day Parade held an event, I think it was early this morning, where some of the organizers marched up Fifth Avenue. It just looked like maybe a few dozen people. Is that a bad idea?
I think for a parade that's been part of the fabric of our life, and this is an amazing statement to make for almost a quarter of a millennium, since before, I believe, the founding of the Republic. I understand they were in, I spoke to Sean Lane, the chairman of the parade. They were in just pain and agony that this parade went off every year from its founding till now. And this is the first time in war and peace and anything else that's ever happened in history, the parade was shut down. I think there's a lot of pain. There's a lot of pain right now in the Irish community that honors, St. Patrick honors that parade. So I think what they wanted to do was do some small symbolic effort to keep continuity with all those hundreds of years of tradition. If they kept it to a few dozen people, I think that's honorable. They obviously stayed within the rules. Okay, who has not had a chance? Go ahead.
Details. I think Dr. Katz said last week the city had 5,000 ventilators. He felt that that was sufficient. Is that number still right?
We continue. Well, let's be clear about the word sufficient and timelines, and Dr. Katz will jump in, but based on what we knew then, we thought it was a good number. We've continued to check, and we're checking every conceivable existing source of ventilators in the city to make sure where we're at. My understanding is that number approaches 5,000. I don't have an exact one for you, but we're still in that ballpark. We need more for where we are now and where we are going. So originally, we obviously hoped that it was not going to project the way it is now. The way it is now, we're going to need, there's a point coming when we're going to need more.
I agree. I mean, actually, what I said was that that Health and Hospitals has over 1,000, and we represent about 20% of the city in general. So I estimated for you that if you wanted a ballpark figure, it would be around 5,000.
And how many the city will need as the crisis continues?
We are going to need a whole lot of everything. There's your first estimate. We're trying to figure it out. What I would say to you is constant expansion. I don't mean that to be flip or evasive. I mean that it's literally an unknowable number, first of all. And second of all, if we can get it, we want it. If we can get help from FEMA, if we can get help from the United States military, anything we can get our hands on. We're the biggest city in the country. The numbers are growing rapidly. We're going to get our hands on every medical facility, if we can get, as we did the other day, a former nursing home, a nursing home that hasn't opened, anything like that. We're going to be looking at hotels, anything we can get our hands on for buildings, every form of equipment and supply, every professional who's willing to come in our service. We will need it all, and it just has to constantly keep growing. So that we don't have an endpoint number yet. The answer is yes to everything we can get our hands on.
A very niche thing. Have you considered a suspension on people moving apartments or homes? I mean, what would you say to people whose leases are up, at the end of the month? It has to be a hard time to find a new place.
Oh, I'm a little confused by the question. What do you?
Writing about, what will happen, just if you live somewhere and the lease ends at the end of the month and you are considering moving, would you recommend against that given, concerns about spread?
My colleagues can speak to this. I mean, it's obviously a very individual dynamic. If your lease is ending and you have the opportunity to renew it and keep continuity, that would be ideal, obviously. I mean, people have to deal with their individual circumstance, but I don't know really what guidance. If you've got some, I welcome it.
So the recommendation would be what we've been saying. If the individuals who are doing the moving are asymptomatic, and everybody's asymptomatic, then go about your life, minimize, contact and exposure, and then do it as quickly as possible. But folks shouldn't stop doing the essential things in their lives, right? We want people to continue with the essentials, and if having a stable housing, I mean, that's pretty essential. So I would certainly encourage it, but I would want people to be diligent and vigilant, right? Those are my two new favorite words. Diligent about hand washing, covering your mouth and your nose when you cough and you sneeze, and being vigilant about whether or not you are developing symptoms of fever and a cough, fever and shortness of breath. I think that we are far enough in this outbreak where New Yorkers should assume that in some place, shape, or form, they've already been exposed to COVID-19. And the important thing now is to be vigilant about whether or not they develop symptoms, and if they do, to stay home. And if they haven't, then to double down on all of the preventive measures we've been saying in terms of hand washing, covering hands and cough, et cetera.